The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace corridors as Prince William walked briskly toward the east wing. His shoes echoed against the marble floors, a sound that had become as familiar to him as his own heartbeat over the years. He carried a stack of documents under his arm, official papers that needed Kate's signature for their upcoming charity event. It was supposed to be a routine visit to her private office, nothing more than a quick stop before his next appointment. William had been up since dawn, reviewing schedules and meeting with his staff about the week's engagements. The royal duties never seemed to end, each day bringing new responsibilities and obligations. Yet he had learned to find moments of peace within the chaos, especially when he could steal a few minutes with Kate between their busy schedules. As he approached the heavy oak door of Kate's study, William noticed something unusual. The door was slightly ajar, which was odd because Kate always kept it closed when she was working. He could hear soft voices coming from inside, but they weren't the professional tones he expected to hear during a business meeting. There was something different about them, something that made him pause with his hand halfway to the doorknob. William hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should knock or simply announce himself as he usually did. Kate knew he was coming, after all. They had arranged this meeting the night before over dinner, discussing the final details of their charity work while sharing a quiet meal in their private dining room. But something about the atmosphere beyond that door made him stop and listen. The voices were clearer now, and William recognized Kate's gentle tone. She was speaking in the soft, patient way she used with children, her voice filled with warmth and understanding. But who was she talking to? There were no children scheduled to visit the palace that morning, and Kate's calendar had shown only administrative meetings and correspondence time. William's curiosity got the better of him. Instead of knocking, he gently pushed the door open, just a crack wider, being careful not to make any noise. The hinges, well-oiled and maintained by the palace staff, moved silently. Through the small gap, he could see into Kate's private study, a room that had become her sanctuary within the palace walls. The study was decorated in warm, inviting colors, with comfortable chairs arranged around a small coffee table. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with everything from royal protocol manuals to children's literature. It was here that Kate handled much of her private correspondence and prepared for her public appearances. But today, the room held something entirely different. William's eyes widened as he took in the scene before him. Kate was sitting on the floor, her elegant dress spread around her like a flower. Her usual perfect posture had given way to a relaxed, natural position as she leaned forward, completely focused on her companion. And there, sitting cross-legged across from her, was a young boy who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. The child was thin, almost frail-looking, with sandy brown hair that fell across his forehead. His clothes were clean, but clearly well-worn, the kind of practical garments that spoke of careful budgeting and hand-me-downs. In his small hands, he held what appeared to be a drawing, showing it to Kate with the kind of pride that only children possess when sharing their artwork. William watched, transfixed, as Kate examined the drawing with genuine interest. She pointed to different parts of the picture, asking questions and making comments that caused the boy's face to light up with joy. The prince had seen Kate interact with children during their official visits to schools and hospitals, but this was different. There was no crowd of photographers, no protocol officers hovering nearby, no schedule to maintain. This was Kate being herself, completely natural and unguarded. The boy began to speak, his voice barely audible from William's position at the door. But Kate leaned in closer, giving him her complete attention as if his words were the most important thing in the world. William could see her nodding encouragingly, her face showing genuine interest and concern as the child shared whatever story he was telling. As William continued to observe, he began to piece together more details about their visitor. The boy's Accent, when he spoke louder, carried hints of London's East End. His manner of speaking was polite, but somewhat hesitant, as if he wasn't quite sure he belonged in such grand surroundings. Yet Kate's warm presence seemed to put him at ease, creating a bubble of comfort in the formal palace setting. The drawing the boy held appeared to show a family scene, with stick figures holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. William could make out what looked like a house in the background, complete with a chimney releasing curly smoke into the sky. It was the kind of innocent artwork that children create when they dream of perfect families and happy homes. Kate reached out and gently touched the boy's shoulder, saying something that made him smile. It was a radiant smile that transformed his entire face, revealing a gap where he had recently lost a front tooth. The sight of that gap-toothed grin stirred something deep within William's chest, a feeling he couldn't quite name but recognized as profoundly moving. The prince found himself holding his breath, not wanting to disturb this precious moment. He had witnessed Kate's compassion countless times during their marriage, but seeing her like this, completely absorbed in comforting a child, reminded him why he had fallen in love with her in the first place. Her ability to connect with people, to make them feel seen and valued, was one of her greatest gifts. As he watched, Kate began to show the boy something from her desk drawer. William couldn't see what it was from his angle, but the child's eyes grew wide with wonder. Whatever Kate was sharing with him clearly held special significance, and William found himself wondering about the story behind this unexpected visit. The morning light streaming through the tall windows caught Kate's hair, creating a soft halo effect that made the scene even more touching. She looked like a mother figure, nurturing and protective, giving this young visitor the kind of attention that would stay with him forever. William realized he was witnessing something extraordinary, a moment of pure human connection that transcended titles and royal protocol. Kate pulled out a small wooden box from her desk drawer, its surface worn smooth from years of handling. The boy's eyes grew even wider as she carefully opened it, revealing what appeared to be a collection of small treasures inside. William strained to see what had captured the child's attention so completely, but from his position at the door, he could only make out the glint of something metallic catching the light. "This belonged to someone very special to me," Kate said softly, her voice carrying clearly across the quiet room. She lifted something small from the box, holding it delicately between her fingers. "She would have loved to meet you, and I think she would have wanted you to have this." The boy's mouth formed a small O of amazement as Kate placed what looked like a small pendant or charm into his palm. His fingers closed around it carefully, as if he understood he was holding something precious beyond measure. William felt his own breath catch as he realized the significance of what he was witnessing. Kate rarely shared personal mementos, especially those connected to Diana. "Tell me more about your mum," Kate said gently, settling back into her position on the floor. The way she said it suggested this wasn't the first time they had discussed his mother, and William began to understand that this visit was not as spontaneous as it had first appeared. The boy's face grew serious as he clutched the pendant. "She's been sleeping a lot lately," he said in his small voice. "The doctors say she needs to rest, but I can hear her crying at night sometimes. I don't think she knows I can hear her, but our flat is really small." William felt something tighten in his chest. The innocence in the child's words, combined with the weight of what he was describing, painted a picture that was both heartbreaking and all too common. How many families were struggling with illness, trying to shield their children from worries too heavy for small shoulders to bear? Kate reached out and took the boy's free hand in hers. "It must be scary for you," she said, not trying to minimize his feelings or offer false reassurances. "When people we love are sick, we worry about them all the time." The boy nodded vigorously, grateful that someone understood. "I try to be really good so I don't make her more worried," he whispered. "I clean up my toys, and I don't ask for things at the shop anymore." I even learned how to make tea, but I have to stand on a chair to reach the kettle. William found himself blinking back unexpected moisture in his eyes. The image of this small boy standing on a chair, trying to take care of his sick mother, was almost too much to bear. He thought of his own children, Charlotte and George and little Louis, safe and secure in their privileged world. The contrast was stark and humbling. "You're being very brave," Kate told the boy, her voice full of admiration. "But you know what? Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask for help when we need it. Even grown-ups need help sometimes." The boy considered this, his young face scrunched up in thought. "Is that why I'm here? Because someone wanted to help?" Kate smiled, and William could see the deep affection in her expression. "Yes, exactly. There are people who care about you and your mom, people who want to make sure you're both okay." William began to piece together more of the story. This wasn't a random encounter or a scheduled royal visit. Somehow, through the network of charities and organizations they supported, this child had come to Kate's attention. And rather than handle it through official channels or delegate it to staff, she had chosen to meet with him personally in the privacy of her own study. The boy looked around the elegant room, taking in the beautiful furniture and artwork. "This place is really fancy," he said with the straightforwardness that only children possess. "Do you really live here?" Kate laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "I do, but you know what? Sometimes I miss living in a smaller place, like you do. Big houses can feel lonely sometimes." This admission surprised William. Kate had adapted so well to royal life that he sometimes forgot how different it was from her upbringing in Berkshire. Her ability to connect with this child partly came from her own memories of a more ordinary life before titles and protocol became part of her daily routine. "Do you have kids?" the boy asked, apparently emboldened by Kate's openness. "I do," Kate replied. "3 of them. And do you know what? They would really like you. You seem like the kind of friend they would enjoy playing with." The boy's face lit up at this possibility. "Really? Even though I don't have fancy toys or nice clothes like they probably do?" "Especially because of that," Kate said firmly. "The best friends are the ones who are kind and caring, just like you are with your mum. Fancy things don't matter nearly as much as having a good heart." William watched as the boy absorbed this wisdom, nodding solemnly. Kate had a gift for speaking to children in a way that made them feel valued and understood, without talking down to them or dismissing their concerns. "Mrs. Henderson from the center said you wanted to meet me," the boy said, apparently referring to someone from one of their supported organizations. "She said you help kids whose mums and dads are sick." "Mrs. Henderson is right," Kate confirmed. "It's one of the most important things I do. Children like you are very special to me." The simplicity of her words carried such sincerity that William felt his throat tighten. He had always admired Kate's dedication to her charitable work, but seeing it in action like this, witnessing the personal connection she made with each individual they tried to help, filled him with a profound sense of pride and love. The boy carefully opened his hand to look at the pendant again. What was she like? The special person this belonged to? Kate's expression grew soft and distant. "She was very kind, just like you are. She cared about people who were hurting, and she always tried to help when she could. She would have thought you were wonderful." William realized with a start that Kate was talking about his mother, Princess Diana. The pendant must be something Diana had worn or treasured, now being passed on to this young boy who needed hope and comfort. The gesture was both beautiful and deeply moving, connecting past and present in a way that honored Diana's memory while creating new bonds of care and compassion. The boy held the pendant up to the light, watching it sparkle. It was a small silver star with tiny diamonds, delicate and beautiful, but not ostentatious. William recognized it immediately, his heart clenching with recognition and emotion. It had been one of his mother's favorite pieces. something she wore often during her private moments rather than her formal jewelry for public appearances. She used to say that stars were special because they shine brightest in the darkness, Kate continued, her voice gentle but filled with meaning. Just like brave children who take care of their families when times are hard. The boy's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. There was something deeper there, a recognition that he was being seen and valued in a way that perhaps no adult had shown him before. "Can I really keep it?" he whispered. "Of course you can," Kate assured him. "But more than that, I want you to remember what it means. Whenever you look at it, I want you to remember that you're not alone, and that being brave doesn't mean you can't be scared sometimes." William felt his own eyes burning with unshed tears. The generosity of Kate's gesture went far beyond the monetary value of the jewelry. She was giving this child a piece of royal history, a connection to Diana's legacy of compassion, and most importantly, a tangible reminder that he mattered. The boy carefully fastened the chain around his neck, the pendant disappearing beneath his worn t-shirt. The way he touched it gently showed he understood its significance, even if he couldn't fully comprehend the history behind it. "Now," Kate said, brightening her tone, "I believe Mrs. Henderson mentioned that you're quite good at drawing. Would you like to show me more of your artwork?" The boy's face transformed with excitement. He reached into a small backpack William hadn't noticed before and pulled out a folded piece of construction paper. As he unfolded it carefully, William could see it was another drawing, this one more detailed than the first. This picture showed a hospital scene with stick figures in beds and others in what appeared to be white coats standing nearby. But unlike many children's drawings of scary places, this one was filled with bright colors and smiling faces. Flowers decorated the borders, and a large rainbow arched over the entire scene. "This is the hospital where Mum goes for her treatments," the boy explained proudly. "I drew it to show her that it's not a scary place. See? Everyone is smiling because they're there to help people feel better." Kate studied the drawing with the same serious attention she might give to a priceless work of art. "This is beautiful," she said, and William could hear she truly meant it. "You've made the hospital look like a place of hope instead of worry. That's very special." The boy beamed at the praise. "Mum cried when I showed it to her, but I think it was happy crying, because she hugged me really tight afterward." "I'm sure it was happy crying," Kate agreed. "Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're proud or when something makes them feel loved." William found himself thinking about his own children and how they processed the world around them. This boy, despite facing circumstances that would challenge many adults, had found a way to create beauty and hope from his experiences. There was a resilience in him that was both inspiring and heartbreaking. "Do you draw pictures for other people too?" Kate asked. The boy nodded enthusiastically. "I made one for Mrs. Thompson next door because she's really old and doesn't have any family. And I drew one for the postman because he always smiles and says hello to me even when it's raining." Kate exchanged the drawing for another piece of paper from her desk. "I wonder if you might draw something for me," she said. "Something I could keep here in my office to remind me of our visit today." The boy's eyes went wide with surprise and delight. "You want me to draw you a picture? To keep forever?" "I would treasure it," Kate said simply, and William knew she meant every word. The boy immediately set to work, his small tongue poking out slightly in concentration as he began sketching. William watched, fascinated as the child became completely absorbed in his task. Kate sat quietly beside him, occasionally offering encouragement, but mostly just providing a supportive presence. As the boy drew, he chattered quietly about his life, sharing small details that painted a picture of remarkable maturity for his age. He talked about helping his mother with household tasks, about reading to her when she was too tired to hold books herself, about the way he organized his toys so she wouldn't trip over them when she had bad days. "The medicine makes Mum feel sick sometimes," he said matter-of-factly as he added details to his drawing. But the doctors say it's fighting the bad stuff in her body, so that's good, right? That's exactly right, Kate confirmed. Sometimes medicine has to make us feel a little worse before it can make us feel better. It sounds like you understand that very well. William marveled at Kate's ability to discuss such complex topics in terms the child could understand without frightening him or giving false hope. She struck the perfect balance between honesty and age-appropriate reassurance. "There," the boy announced, sitting back to admire his finished artwork. "It's you and me having tea together, just like we are now. Except I drew us having biscuits, too, because I thought that would be nice." Kate took the drawing, and William could see her face soften with genuine emotion. The picture showed two figures sitting at a small table, both smiling broadly. The woman figure had long brown hair and wore what appeared to be a crown, while the smaller figure had the boy's characteristic gap-toothed grin. Between them on the table were teacups and a plate of what were clearly meant to be biscuits. "This is perfect," Kate said, her voice slightly thick with emotion. "I'm going to have it framed and put it right here on my desk where I can see it every day." The boy glowed with pride. "Really? Even though I'm not very good at drawing hands?" Kate laughed. "Hands are very difficult to draw. Even famous artists sometimes struggle with them. But you know what you're very good at? Drawing feelings. I can see how happy we both are in this picture, and that's the most important part." William watched as Kate carefully placed the drawing on her desk, positioning it where she could easily see it from her chair. The gesture was simple, but the care she took in finding the perfect spot showed how much the gift meant to her. Frost, boy, watched, too, his face shining with the kind of pure joy that comes from having your efforts truly appreciated. "Now I have something else for you," Kate said, reaching into another drawer. She pulled out what appeared to be a small photo album, its cover decorated with colorful stickers. "This is for you to keep your own artwork in, and maybe some photographs, too." The boy's hands trembled slightly as he accepted the album. He opened it carefully, revealing empty pages waiting to be filled. "For my drawings?" he asked, his voice hushed with reverence. "For your drawings? For pictures of your mum? For anything that's special to you?" Kate explained. "Everyone needs a place to keep their most important memories safe." William felt a lump forming in his throat as he watched this exchange. Kate wasn't just giving the child gifts. She was teaching him that his life, his experiences, and his creativity had value. She was helping him build a sense of self-worth that would serve him long after this visit ended. The boy flipped through the empty pages, already imagining what he would put in each one. "I can put the picture of Mum and me at the seaside last summer," he said excitedly, "and the one of her laughing when I tried to make pancakes, but they looked more like scrambled eggs." Kate's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Those sound like perfect memories to preserve. The funny moments are often the ones we treasure most. Mum says I'm not allowed to be sad about her being sick," the boy continued, his tone becoming more serious. "She says we have to make happy memories while we can, so that's what they'll remember instead of the hard parts." The wisdom in those words, spoken by a child who couldn't be more than 8 years old, hit William like a physical blow. Here was a family facing unimaginable challenges, yet they were focused on creating joy rather than dwelling on fear. It was a lesson in courage that put many adult concerns into perspective. Kate reached out and gently touched the boy's cheek. "Your mum sounds very wise, and very lucky to have such a thoughtful son." The boy leaned into her touch for just a moment, and William realized this might be the first gentle motherly contact he had experienced in some time. If his mother was seriously ill, she might not have the energy for the kind of physical comfort that children needed. Kate seemed to sense this too, and she didn't pull her hand away immediately. "Can I tell you a secret?" the boy whispered, as if sharing something very important. Kate leaned in closer, giving him her complete attention. "Of course you can." Sometimes I pretend that I have a fairy godmother, like in the stories Mum used to read to me before she got too tired. I pretend that she's watching over us and making sure everything will be okay." The boy paused, looking directly into Kate's eyes. "I think maybe you might be her." William felt his breath catch. The innocent sincerity of the child's words, combined with the way Kate's face transformed with emotion, created a moment so pure and touching that he had to grip the doorframe to steady himself. Kate's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me," she whispered back. "And you know what? I think your fairy godmother and I must be working together because I care about you and your mum very much." The boy giggled at this idea, clearly delighted by the thought of having multiple magical protectors. "Does that mean you have magic powers?" "Well," Kate said with mock seriousness, "I can't make wishes come true with a magic wand, but I can do some pretty special things. Like making sure you and your mum have help with groceries and bills, and making sure the doctors take extra good care of her." William's heart swelled with pride. Kate was explaining their charitable support in terms the child could understand, making it feel like magic rather than charity. She was preserving his dignity while ensuring he understood that help was available. "And," Kate continued, "I can make sure that you have someone to talk to whenever you feel scared or worried. Mrs. Henderson will always be there for you, and she can always reach me if you need something special." The boy's face grew thoughtful. "What if I just want to tell someone about the funny things that happen, like when Mum tried to teach me to dance in the kitchen and we kept bumping into the table?" Kate's laugh was genuine and warm. "Especially for things like that. The happy stories are just as important as the worried ones." William watched as the boy carefully packed his new treasures into his small backpack, treating each item like the precious gift it was. The photo album went in first, followed by his original drawings. He touched the pendant beneath his shirt one more time, as if reassuring himself it was still there. "Will I see you again?" he asked, and William could hear the hope and uncertainty in his young voice. Kate considered her answer carefully. "I hope so," she said honestly. "But even if we don't meet in person again soon, I want you to remember that you're always in my thoughts, and you can always send me drawings or letters. Through Mrs. Henderson." The boy nodded solemnly, accepting this arrangement with the adaptability that children possessed when adults were honest with them about limitations and possibilities. "I should probably go now," the boy said, though he made no immediate move to leave. "Mrs. Henderson said not to take up too much of your time because you're very important and busy." Kate shook her head firmly. "You are never taking up too much of my time. Spending time with you has been the most important thing I've done today." William felt tears prick his eyes at the absolute sincerity in Kate's voice. She meant every word, and somehow this 8-year-old boy seemed to understand that he was receiving something rare and precious, time and attention from someone who could have chosen to spend it anywhere else. Kate stood up gracefully and extended her hand to help the boy to his feet. As they both rose from the floor, William could see the height difference between them made even more pronounced by Kate's elegant posture. Yet somehow, she managed to make herself seem approachable and equal to the child, never towering over him in a way that might make him feel small or intimidated. "Before you go," Kate said, "I want to give you one more thing." She walked to her desk and picked up a small card embossed with elegant script. "This has my private telephone number on it. Mrs. Henderson has it too, but I wanted you to have your own copy." The boy took the card with both hands, as if it were made of the finest crystal. His eyes widened as he read the elegant writing, though William suspected he might be struggling with some of the formal language used in royal correspondence. "If you ever need to talk to someone, or if your mum needs help with anything at all, you can have Mrs. Henderson call this number. Day or night someone will answer, and make sure I know you need me." William felt a surge of emotion at Kate's promise. He knew she meant it completely, that she would indeed be available whenever this child or his mother needed support. It was the kind of personal commitment that went far beyond royal duty or charitable obligation. The boy carefully tucked the card into his backpack, right next to his precious photo album. "Thank you," he said simply, but the words carried a weight of gratitude that seemed too large for such a small person to bear. Kate knelt down again, bringing herself to the boy's eye level for what both seemed to sense would be their final moments together. "I want you to promise me something," she said gently. The boy nodded seriously, ready to agree to whatever she asked. "Promise me that you'll remember to be a little boy sometimes. I know you're taking very good care of your mum, and that makes you very special, but you don't have to carry all the worry by yourself. It's okay to play and laugh and be silly sometimes." William could see the boy processing this permission, as if the idea of setting aside his responsibilities occasionally was both appealing and slightly frightening. "What if something happens while I'm playing and I'm not there to help?" he asked, voicing the fear that clearly weighed on his young mind constantly. Kate's expression grew infinitely tender. "Your mom wants you to be happy. She would be sadder if you never played than she would be if you weren't watching her every single minute. Love means wanting the people we care about to have joy in their lives." This concept seemed to resonate with the boy. William could see him working through the logic, trying to reconcile his sense of responsibility with this new perspective on what loving care truly meant. "And remember," Kate continued, "there are lots of grown-ups who are helping. Take care of your mum now. The doctors, the nurses, Mrs. Henderson and me. You don't have to do it all alone anymore." The relief that washed over the boy's face was visible and heartbreaking. William realized that this child had been carrying burdens that would challenge adults, feeling responsible for his mother's well-being in ways that were far beyond his capabilities or age-appropriate role. "Can I hug you goodbye?" the boy asked shyly, apparently unsure of the protocol for hugging someone as important as Kate. Kate's answer was to immediately wrap him in a warm, enveloping hug that seemed to surround his small frame completely. William watched as the boy melted into her embrace, his thin shoulders finally relaxing as he allowed himself to be comforted by someone else's strength. The hug lasted longer than a polite farewell would typically require, and William could see that both Kate and the boy were reluctant to let go. When they finally separated, both had tears in their eyes, but they were tears of connection and hope rather than sadness. "You're going to be okay," Kate told him, her hands still resting gently on his shoulders. "Both of you are going to be okay." The boy nodded, and for the first time since William had been watching this encounter, the child looked like he actually believed those words might be true. As the boy headed toward the door, William quickly stepped back from his position, moving silently down the corridor until he was far enough away not to be immediately visible. His heart was pounding, both from the emotional impact of what he had witnessed and from the sudden need to avoid being discovered as an inadvertent observer. He heard the door to Kate's study open fully, and then Kate's voice saying goodbye to the boy. There were footsteps in the hallway, growing fainter as Kate presumably walked the child to wherever Mrs. Henderson was waiting to take him home. William stood in the corridor, his back against the wall, trying to process everything he had just witnessed. The documents he had come to deliver were still clutched in his hands, forgotten in the face of something far more important than signatures and schedules. He thought about his own privileged childhood, surrounded by security and comfort, never having to worry about a parent's health or the family's financial stability. Yet this young boy, facing circumstances that would terrify most adults, had shown grace, courage, and compassion that put many grown-ups to shame. More than that, William had seen his wife in a completely new light. He had always known Kate was compassionate and dedicated to their charitable work, but witnessing her interact with this child on such a personal level revealed depths of empathy and genuine care that took his breath away. the way she had spoken. To the boy, the gifts she had chosen, the promises she had made, all of it showed a level of personal investment that went far beyond professional duty. She had opened her heart completely to this child and his situation, making herself vulnerable to the pain of caring deeply about people she might not be able to save. William heard footsteps returning down the corridor and quickly composed himself, straightening his clothes and trying to arrange his features into a normal expression. But inside, he was still reeling from the emotional impact of what he had observed. Kate appeared at the end of the corridor, walking slowly back toward her study. William could see that she was wiping her eyes discreetly, trying to compose herself after the emotional farewell. When she noticed him standing there, she paused, clearly surprised to see him in the hallway rather than in her office. "William," she said, her voice slightly thick with emotion, "I thought you were coming at 11. Did I miss our appointment?" He looked at his watch and realized that nearly an hour had passed since his intended arrival time. The meeting with the boy had lasted much longer than either of them had probably anticipated, and William had been so absorbed in watching that he had lost all track of time. "I was here," he said quietly, his voice catching slightly. "I saw the door was open. And he trailed off, unsure how to explain that he had witnessed the entire encounter without sounding like he had been deliberately spying. Kate's eyes widened with understanding and perhaps a touch of embarrassment. "Oh, William, I'm so sorry. I should have rescheduled our meeting. I know your time is precious, and I didn't mean to keep you waiting while I—" "Don't apologize," William interrupted, his voice filled with an emotion he couldn't quite control. "Please, don't ever apologize for that." Kate studied his face, clearly trying to read his expression and understand his reaction. What she saw there must have told her that he had witnessed more than just her being late for their appointment. "You saw him?" she asked softly. William nodded, not trusting himself to speak immediately. When he did find his voice, the words came out rough with emotion. "I saw everything. The drawing, the pendant, the way you—" He stopped, overwhelmed by trying to put into words what he had observed. Kate's face flushed slightly, as if she had been caught in something private and personal. "I hope you don't think I overstepped. I know we have protocols about these things, but when Mrs. Henderson told me about Tommy's situation, I just couldn't handle it through normal channels. His mother has cancer, and they're struggling so much, and he's trying so hard to be brave." Her words tumbled out in a rush, as if she needed to justify her actions. William could see that she was worried he might disapprove of her personal involvement, of the way she had opened her heart and her private space to this child. "Kate," William said, stepping closer to her. His voice was gentle but firm. "You gave him my mother's star pendant." She froze, her eyes searching his face for any sign of anger or disapproval. "I'm sorry. I should have asked you first. I know how precious her jewelry is, and I had no right to—" "Stop," William said, reaching out to take her hands in his. "Just stop." The documents he had been carrying fell to the floor, scattered and forgotten. Neither of them moved to pick them up. In that moment, papers and signatures and official business seemed utterly insignificant compared to what had just transpired. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever witnessed," William continued, his voice breaking slightly. "The way you spoke to him, the way you made him feel important and valued, the way you gave him hope." He paused, struggling to find adequate words. "My mother would have been so proud." Kate's eyes filled with fresh tears, but this time they were tears of relief rather than worry. "He needed something to hold on to," she whispered. "Something that would remind him he's not alone. And I kept thinking about how your mother would have handled this situation, how she would have wanted to help." William pulled Kate into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. He could feel her trembling slightly, the emotional weight. Of the encounter with Tommy finally catching up with her now that the child was gone and she could let her guard down. "She would have done exactly what you did," William murmured into her hair. "She would have sat on the floor and listened to his stories and given him something precious to remember her by. You honored her memory in the most perfect way possible." They stood there in the hallway, holding each other, both struggling with the intensity of emotions that the morning had brought. William found himself thinking about legacy and love, about how the best parts of his mother lived on, not just in him and Harry, but in Kate's compassionate actions. "Did you hear what he said about the fairy godmother?" Kate asked, her voice muffled against William's shoulder. William nodded, remembering the innocent sincerity in the boy's voice when he had shared his secret. "He sees you exactly as you are," he said. "Someone who appears in people's lives when they need help most, someone who makes things better just by caring." Kate pulled back slightly to look at his face. "I'm going to worry about them constantly now," she admitted. "About Tommy and his mother. I know I can't save everyone, but knowing their story, seeing how hard they're trying to stay strong, that's what makes you who you are," William told her. "The fact that you can't just help someone and then forget about them. You carry them with you." Kate wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself. "I set up a fund for them," she said quietly. "Medical expenses, living costs, whatever they need. And I made sure Tommy will have counseling available, someone to talk to about everything he's going through." William felt another wave of love and admiration wash over him. Even in the midst of an emotional encounter, Kate had been thinking, practically about long-term solutions and support systems. "Mrs. Henderson is going to send me updates," Kate continued. "Pictures, reports from the doctors, anything Tommy wants to share. I promised him I would keep his drawing on my desk, and I intend to honor that promise." William looked toward Kate's study, imagining that simple child's artwork sitting among the formal documents and official correspondence that usually occupied her workspace. The contrast would serve as a daily reminder of what really mattered, of the human faces behind their charitable work. "I love you," William said suddenly, the words coming from somewhere deep in his chest. "I have loved you for years, but watching you with that little boy, seeing how naturally kindness flows from you, I fell in love with you all over again." Kate's face transformed with a smile that was radiant despite her tears. "I love you too," she whispered. "And I'm grateful that we get to do this work together, that we can use our position to make a real difference in lives like Tommy's." William bent down to gather the scattered documents from the floor, but as he did, he realized they seemed completely unimportant now. Whatever signatures Kate needed to provide, whatever official business had brought him to her office, it all paled in comparison to what they had just experienced. "These can wait," he said, straightening up with the papers in hand. "Everything can wait." Kate nodded, understanding without needing explanation. Some moments were too precious to interrupt with mundane responsibilities, too meaningful to rush past in service of schedules and obligations. They walked together toward Kate's study, where Tommy's drawing already had a place of honor on her desk, and where the memory of a little boy's courage would remind them daily of why their work mattered. Outside, the palace continued its formal rhythms, but inside this small room, something profound had shifted. Love had expanded, legacy had been honored, and hope had been planted in the heart of a child who desperately needed to believe that magic still existed in the world. As they entered the study together, William realized that he had witnessed something that would stay with him forever. Not just Kate's incredible compassion, but the reminder that the most important moments in life often happened quietly, away from cameras and crowds, in simple encounters between human hearts reaching out to comfort one another.